Hello everyone. Le while people are still joining in, let me just start with the introduction itself. Hello everyone. I am Anam Ansari, the GDSC lead of Thakur College of Engineering and Technology, and today we are hosting this session APIs 101 with Postman. And today's session will be conducted by Wilfred Almeida, who is a fourth year student in our college, and he is also the Postman student expert. He is also a full stack developer in Flutter, and he has a lot of experience in that. During the sessions, you all can feel free to take any screenshots that you want, and you can post it on your social media, or you can note down the points that we are teaching, and there we will actually tell you an opportunity to earn swag. So just take screenshots whenever you like, and we'll let you know at the end of the session on how you can uh, um, avail this opportunity to earn the swags. And without further ado, I would like to hand over the session to Wilfred, um who will take over the session and give you an introduction to it. Over to you, Wilfred.
Okay, thank you, Anam, for the introduction. So, hello, folks. First of all, compliments of the Diwali season to everyone, and let's get started. So, about me, I'm Wilfred Almeida. Just like Anam introduced, I'm a Postman student expert, and I'm currently a final year student. And my social media handles are listed here, so you can check them out and connect with me everywhere. And then, okay, so let's get started. So let's just go over the agenda of the today's session quickly. So firstly, we'll have an introduction to APIs, and then we'll move on to Postman, a basic introduction. Then we'll understand what requests and responses are, and then we'll do some hands-on activities. And after that, there are some follow-up resources, and then finally the Q&A. So we have some tasks for you people to earn swag. So you have to put your learnings on social media, and also we have a blog writing competition. So I'll give out the details later on. But what I would say is taking screenshots that you can post on the socials and on the blog post. So any moment you feel it's worth noting down, you can just take the screenshot for yourself. And now let's get started. So to understand APIs first, I would just give a broad definition that APIs basically bridge a gap between some technologies. So let's understand that with the analogy of an restaurant. So suppose in a restaurant, there are you a customer who wants to eat, and then there are master chefs like myself who cook great food, and you go to the restaurant and you want to order the food, but the chef is in the kitchen and you are on the dining table. So you need someone in between to bridge the gap. So in restaurants, we have waiters. We place the order to the waiter goes to the kitchen and then brings us the food. So think of API as a waiter service. So basically what API does is it will bridge the gap between two existing services. The server here, this thing has a service to provide, and the client wants to use the service. And to facilitate the interaction between these two, APIs exist. So let's take a practical example. Let's say, suppose Instagram's example. So I made a post on Instagram. So my photo went on to Instagram's servers. And how does the photo reach to your application? When you open the application, your phone's application will tell Instagram server that give me the photos that are posted latest, give me the latest photos. So then the Instagram server will respond. So whom will how will the app communicate with the server? So it will use the APIs for that. Okay, and yeah. So just a formal definition. So application programming interface, API stands for application programming interface, allows services to communicate with each other. And software development, software has become more complex and collaborative over the years. Developers no longer need to create every service from scratch. If you see our modern softwares, they have been being developed over the decades, and they have grown sophisticated and collaborative. So if you want to implement any service, you don't need to implement it from scratch. So there are a lot of existing services that provide the APIs like Google and Twitter, and like any service you use in today's time, they have the APIs. So let's say you want to add a satellite image of any geographic region into your application or anywhere, then you can use the Google Maps API. Google has the Google Maps API. You can use the API and then you can just get the image quickly. You don't need to launch your satellite into the space and then click the image. You can just use the API and you have your image. So let's dive in it deeper into what exactly APIs are. So let's take the example of Instagram. We all use Instagram. So suppose you take a picture on your phone and you post it on Instagram. So what exactly happens here is initially the photo is clicked. So let me just, okay. So the photo is clicked. So your phone also has a camera API. Your phone has different services like the camera. It has microphone. So various services. So these internal services also have their APIs, because if suppose I am an application, if suppose I'm Instagram and I want to take a picture, so I do not need to be concerned with what the hardware is like, what's the resolution of the camera, what's the megapixels are, and all of this stuff I don't need to be concerned with. I just need a simple task done, that click a picture. So I'll call the camera API and tell it that bring me a picture, just click a picture and give the picture back to me. So I'll interact with the camera API and it will give me the picture. So internally, the services also have APIs. So if any other application wants to use the camera, it will do the same thing. It will just use the camera API. It will just request the API to give it a picture and it will have the picture given to it. So coming back to Instagram example, a photo is clicked. So the Instagram application called the camera API and then asked a picture for it. The camera API then returned it a picture. So Instagram has filters. So it will apply some really nice filters to the click picture, and then it will send the photo to Instagram's servers. And then from Instagram's servers to whoever your followers are or who audience is, they will receive the picture. So how does this flow all together happen? First, an API was called by the application to click a picture. Then the photo went from your device to Instagram. So how did that happen? So that also has an API. So Instagram might have an API that that accepts a picture for a post. So the picture went to Instagram via an API. And then again, the picture was stored onto Instagram servers, but again, it has to go to people. So to go to people also, like I said earlier, there is an API that the Instagram's application will ask that give me the latest picture people I'm following have posted, and then it will get the picture. So I hope that idea is clear. So if you see, it's all APIs. If you decode, like dive deep into the existing services like your mobile phone, there is a camera API, there is a microphone API. Everything that has any like feature or functionality to offer, it is offered via the means of APIs. So like there are literally APIs for everything. There are the API for a cat API. It will return an image of a cat or any random fact about a cat. Then there's Discord API, there is Twitter API, there is Spotify API. So using these APIs, you can customize or you can bring in more functionality. Suppose you use Spotify for your daily music preferences, and you want to make picture like make playlist or do any sort of thing, then you don't need to make a service like Spotify, like store the albums and keep the audio all on your servers. No, you don't need to do that. You can just simply use Spotify's API and you can offer a customized solution of your own. So if you check out on Google Play Store, if you just search for Reddit, Reddit's main application will be listed. Along with that, there are various other applications like Beacon for Reddit, Flame for Reddit, all sorts of application list, and they offer the same functionality of browsing the content on Reddit. But how do these applications work? Reddit has made its APIs public. So using those APIs, even you can make your own version of the Reddit and you can just post it out on Play Store. So that's what people have done. So if we try to understand APIs into like in a more simpler terms, APIs turn software into Lego bricks. So if you know what Lego bricks are, they are individual blocks, and when you put those blocks together, you have some applications. So coming back to a smartphone example, we have this camera. So the camera can be one building block. The microphone can be one building block. Similarly, we have Wi-Fi, we have Bluetooth. So when all of these services come together, there is a whole smartphone in your hand. So let's say some application like Instagram wanted to take a picture, so it interacted with the camera module, with the camera API, and it got the image. Suppose there is an application, so Zoom wants to record the video and it wants to stream the service. So then Zoom will do that. Zoom will interact with the camera. Nobody needs to know what the hardware is or what the underlying specs of the camera. The same thing with the microphone. Now we have Bluetooth earphones. So when an application wants to play an audio, it will just call the audio API that exists in your smartphone, and then the audio API will take care where to play, whether to play using the phone speakers or the plugged in earphones or the Bluetooth earphones. The application isn't concerned where the audio is played. Just wants to play an audio, it can interact with the API and get its job done. So that's the functionality APIs offer. You don't need to reinvent the whole wheel. You just need to use the features and functionality that you desire, and that's all. So yeah. So now we'll move to what is Postman. But Postman is obviously someone who brings your letter, but that's not the context here. So we'll first understand the need of Postman. Back in the day, if you wanted to make an API call, then just a sec. Yeah, okay. Team, can you please share the gist I've shared with the participants? So earlier, if you had to interact with any
Sure.
APIs, yeah. So let's say there is a weather API. If you want to get the weather data, then there is a API called Open Weather Map. So if you wanted to interact with the API, there is a command line utility called curl. So you have to use this utility. So let me just try to use it and get some weather data. So when I interact with the API using, okay, so the API worked and it gave me some data. But as a human being, try to understand what this data is shared. If you are a beginner and you just made a random request, it's your first request, let's say, you can try this out. In fact, if you have any command line utility, if you're using Windows command prompt, it might not work. But if you have any bash like git bash or anything, then you can surely try this curl command out. So just try to comprehend what this result is shared. It's basically a hard job to do so. And you can just sit for a while and just try to understand what this data is. You might understand it. But let's say I have this duck API. It returns me an image of a duck. So if I just try to interact with this duck using my command line interface, then there you go. It is returning an image, and this command shell cannot interpret that image. So what is happening is, a beginner will think his system is hacked now, and like everything's, the world is going down. So when the problems of this sort, like this was a huge pain point in the industry. Okay, never mind. So to solve this problem, like it had to be solved. So Postman, actually solved this problem. So okay. Okay, yeah, so make an API call this said, it will be easy they said, because if you're trying to interact with the duck API, you want duck's email and your command line is flooded with those random scary things, then you'll say, no, I'm done for the day. I don't want to interact with the API. So coming back to Postman, Postman is a collaborative API development platform that simplifies creating, using, and testing APIs with a user interface. So what basically Postman is, it's just a tool that has simplified API interaction, like it has brought ease. So Postman is used by 98% of the Fortune 500 companies. So if you just see these companies, these are well-known names. All of these have migrated to Postman, because rather than doing this thing, a GUI utility user interface tool is much better. So I see more than 500,000 organizations and 13 million developers use Postman. So if at a large scale an application is being used, then certainly there has to be some good to the application, and that's what we'll try to do. So before moving on, I'd like you people to sign up on the Postman's official website. So just do one thing, open a browser. So what you can do is, half of your screen, you can keep this you have browser open and half side you can keep Zoom open. So to do that on your devices, you have the Windows key or the command key. Just press that key and use the arrow buttons. Like hit the left arrow and your window will align to the left. Use the right arrow and your window will align to the right. So just you can divide your screens in two parts, and one side I can show you the implementation, and the other side you can just try it hands on. So just head over to postman.com. And you can do this thing with me just as I'm doing. I'll show you everything right from signing up to doing all this stuff. So here you can see sign up for free. So just give me a confirmation in the chat that can you like have you opened postman.com and are you on the sign screen? Okay, cool. I see some yeses. So yeah, people are there on the sign up screen. So what you can do is just sign up with Google. No need to do anything else. You can just sign up using your Google account and yeah, accept the agreement and you should be good to go. And enter your name and I guess most of the people here are students. So if you just scroll down, you can see student or professor and just click here and then continue. And here, on this section, you can just use continue without team and just move ahead. Okay, so can you, did you people reach this part? Just give me a confirmation in chat that can you see this, how would you like to start section? Okay, just write a yes in the chat and just move ahead. Okay, so since you guys are here, just basic, like when you enter Postman, use existing APIs on Postman. So there are well-known services like Notion and Slack and Stripe and Twitter APIs. So if you want to interact with these APIs, you can just input the ready-made collections in Postman and you can just start using the APIs. You don't need to like worry about anything else. So just click here. I know how to use Postman and move ahead. So this is your basic workspace here. This is the basic Postman workspace. So this has been shared to you here. The team has shared this. So here, if you can see, there is a link for the Postman collection. So just open this link. I have made a collection for you people to interact. So just open this collection. Okay, so did you open the collection? Just give me a confirmation in chat. Yeah, just head over to this gist here, and here's the Postman collection link. Just open the link. Okay, so now after you have opened the link, this is the screen you must be seeing. So here is it's an API 101 session, and in the left navigation menu, if you open this, there are 4 API requests that I have already made here. I've prepared this. If you click on here, then you can see that this API is calling the Open Weather Map API to get the weather data. And if I try to send the request here, it will tell me that it cannot send from a public. I have to create a fork. So just click on Create a Fork button here, and you should be good to go. So yeah, just give any random name here, and okay, and this watch original collection is your choice whether or not you want to watch it. Just keep stuff default and just move on. Okay, so did you create the fork? Just give me a confirmation in the chat. Is the fork created? Okay, I can see a lot of people have created the fork. So just do one thing. Or don't do anything. I just give a basic walkthrough, and then we can move on. So this is a call to the Open Weather Map API, and it is getting the data of Mumbai city. So I want the weather of Mumbai, so I'll just hit here send, and it gave me the data. So earlier, this is the same API I called using the command line utility. So if I go here and if I do this, then this is the returned result. So you people tell me what is better, the command, this thing this happened in command, or whatever is displayed here on Postman. So just write in the chat which one do you feel is more better as a developer experience when you're already frustrated with the bugs in your code and you want to talk with an API. So which one would you generally prefer? So I guess the answer is just the default Postman. Yeah, Postman seems better. So there are a lot of other features too. I'll just show them to you. So this is just one thing that you sent a request and you got the response. So let's see what happened in the request here. So this is the URL. If you go to this gist that I have shared, the API is here too. So if you just see this API, let's try to understand this URL first. What is happening here? So you just copy pasted this URL, but this URL has some query parameters. Like I want the data of Mumbai. So I specified this Mumbai keyword here, and then there is also this some random string, and then there's also some this all these values. So what are these values? If you try to understand those in this URL, then it gets more confusing. So there is this the all of the query parameters. These are called as the query parameters. So these are specified. So let's understand this queue, this city here, Mumbai. So I want the data of Mumbai, so I specified a Mumbai. Then the unit metrics, this is something the API needs. And this is another main thing, app ID. This is my API key. So when you use the weather map, open weather map API, you need an API key to interact with the API. So this is a key I prepared for this session. So using this key, you are interacting. So let's say I want to change this Mumbai to, let's say, Delhi. So I can go here and try to edit this. But in case you do a miss, you press just backspace one extra time, and then this something happens and the URL might stop working. So it's a mess to do here. What you can do is Postman provides you all of the variables here. So let's say Mumbai here, I'll just do here Delhi, and as I'm typing here, notice what happens here. I'll just type Delhi here and I'll send the request, and see I have the weather for Delhi here. And also this is what it's in a pretty like a Postman formatted the response for me. So this is like human readable. You can understand what this response is. There are the coordinates of Delhi, the longitude and latitude. Then here the actual weather data, like the weather is smoky today, and then what the temperature is, and what all of these terms that are general in the weather. You can see these. And if you want to see the raw response, like this raw response is what was displayed in the command line utility. Here, what is displayed is the raw response, but Postman went ahead and formatted it for me. So I have been using Postman a lot for a while, and I can say that Postman is one tool that is built by developers for developers. Every feature that exists in Postman just makes sense, and the more you use, the more you understand that how good this tool is. So there are some other stuff here too, like what is the status 200, and then the time, and then this size. So let's see what this is. The status 200. So here it also has given you an a small definition if you want to understand. So standard response for successful HTTP request. So we made this HTTP request to the API. The request was successful. So the status 200 is here. So no, let's do one thing. Let's not send this one. So yeah, if you want to exclude any parameter from your API call, you can just select this here, and you can notice the URL here. When I do this, it just disappears from the URL. So let me just send this request and see what it. So here another message came 401 and invalid API, and notice the status here 401 unauthorized. So whatever the status is, now if you're a beginner to APIs and if you're just trying out and it's your first time interacting with API and you forgot to add the app ID or the API key here and you got this status. So let's try this in our command line utility. Another really cool feature of Postman is you made the request using this, and let's say you are writing in some programming language. So if you need the code, then there is this option here. You can see in the right menu bar, there is this code option. So just click that, and here you can get code snippets. So like in the most popular languages, if you're using Node.js, also Node.js has various libraries to make requests. So all of these, the code is shared here. So here, this is just your code, and just you can right away copy paste the code. You don't need to comprehend and what you have done here and then try to write code yourself. The code is exported here. So it also exports this curl command. So I'll just copy this curl command and paste here. So here also I got this the same response, but you won't understand as a beginner. If you're trying to make an API call first time, then you won't understand, because what this thing is, even I don't understand what it has sent. And here this is like 401 unauthorized and a lot of stuff. But if you see what in Postman, then Postman is giving you this a really small definition that's similar to 403 forbidden, but specifically used when authentication is possible but has failed. Authentication is possible but has failed. So like I said, this API key is used to authenticate the user who is using the API, and we didn't send the key, so authentication failed. And then another parameter here is the time. So let's say, let's just move on to another API now. Let's take this duck API. So if you can just go here and hit the duck API. Everyone do this with me. Hit the duck API and see what you're getting. And confirm it in the chat or hit the API. Just type duck, just type duck in the chat and I'll know. Yeah, just in the left main, this left pane here, go to this duck API and just hit send. Yeah, so you're getting random pictures of ducks. So this is the same duck API I called in the command line, and the command line just got flooded with the random characters because the data that was returned, it was an image. So if you're trying to do it using this curl utility, then you just cannot see. But Postman just went ahead and it's showing me the image. So now I can know that this API is working correctly, and there are this. I got the response. Now, if you can see this time here, so the total time taken for the request processing was 469 milliseconds. Like the moment I hit send, and then the time I received the response, the total time taken is 491 milliseconds now. So let's just see these parameters here: socket initialization, DNS lookup, TCP handshake, all of this stuff. It's irrelevant, but notice this download parameter here. So to download this actual image, it took Postman 215 milliseconds. So let's say you're making an image, you're making an Instagram clone, and you have to send images. So you need to understand the time taken for the image download. So you can just see the image download time here. Similarly, there is this size. So what is the size of the response? If you move back to the weather API and see here, so here it's 791 bytes. So here all just this textual response was received. So the size of the data is 791 bytes. Also notice the time here. It's 540 milliseconds. So it's actually more than the duck API. So we can say that this API is slower than the duck API because it's just taking more time. And here you can see the size is this 185.45 kilobytes basically. So here you can also see the distribution of the size. So headers, I'll move on to headers soon. And this body, so the body, what the body here is, it's the image data. It's this whole image is in the body of the response. So body size is 184 KB. Also, you can save the response, save as an example, or save to a file. So if your APIs, APIs have multiple variations. Let's say here this data is of Delhi. I also want the data of Calcutta. Mumbai and I want to store these both responses. So I can store these responses too. So that's just another handy feature. And yeah, what else? Okay, let's move on to PPT. Okay, so yeah, request and response. I'll just walk. So what happened here is when I hit this send button, I'm basically sending a request to the Duck API. I'm requesting an image from the Duck API. I'm sending a request to the API to give me an image. So I send the request and the Duck API returned me this image as a response. You send a request for something and you get something back in the response. So here I send the request for the weather of Delhi and it gave me in response what I had asked for, the weather of Delhi. But if let's say I eliminate this API key here and I send the response. So here in the same way, I sent a request for the weather of Delhi, but in response, it gave me an error because my request was incomplete. It didn't have the app ID or the API key associated with it. So it gave me this error response. So I sent a bad request and it gave this error response. Okay, so that is request and responses. So yeah, the basic response, the client will send a request to the server and the server will respond with a response. So that is the basics of request and response. And like making requests, so how we interact with these APIs. So there is a method, there is an address or URL, and there is a path. So let's just move back to Postman and I'll explain. So the first thing we saw here, the first thing is method. So here we are getting the image of a duck. So we are getting the image, we are getting some data from the server. So this request is of type get, it is a get request. You can see this get return here. If you click on this, then you can see a lot of requests listed here. But the first one we are doing is the get request because we are getting some data. Similarly, here we are getting the weather, so here it is also a get request. So what the get request does is it tells the server that I want some data. So basically the action you're performing, you're getting some data, so I get request. Then there is this URL. So if you see here, this is till here, it is the URL. And then after that, there is a question mark, and then these are the URL parameters. So let's understand what this URL is. This is the URL of the service. So if you just see api.openweathermap.org. So if you go to openweathermap, their website will be listed. If you want to interact with their API, then you can go to this URL, and then this thing here is the path. So on their API, there is a path data, and there is 2.5, and then weather. So if you want the API, if you want the weather, go to this URL and then go to this path. Understand this as when you go to a bank, you go to a bank, and then if you want to open an account, then go to some counter number 3. See, so just go to this URL and then go to this path. Similarly, you go to this bank and then go to this counter, and then there are this. So we saw the method, we saw the URL, and then we saw the path. So these three things make the basics of the API, like an API call. And then there are these additional query parameters. So you can see in the the weather API, we added these parameters here, but in the Duck API we didn't do anything. We just told the API to return us a image. So this is the the main URL of the API, and then there is this path. So when you go to this path, you can get the image. So let's just do one thing. Let's just go to this URL in the browser. Let's see what it does. So here you can see that an image, like this is a whole website. The whole website is there, and if you go to this path now, then you have an image of it. So this is what paths do. The main service of this API is at this URL, and at this path you have the image of it. So like bank's example I gave, you have the whole bank, and then you want to open an account. So the account opening counter lies here. So similarly, so that is the all about request, and then moving on. Yeah, so request enters and endpoints. So if let's just try with Google, and I'll explain that too. So may open a new tab. So if you just click this plus arrow here, then you can open a new tab. So just click here and type the URL https google.com. Keep the request format as get and hit send. So this is a lot of response here. So did you guys do it? Just type Google in the chat and I'll know that you have hit the just google.com from Postman. Hit google.com and then type Google in the chat box. Okay. So let's see the response here. So this all the response, if you can see, it is HTML code that is returned here. But if you just click this preview here, then you can see that it has rendered the HTML. So whatever HTML code you had received here, Postman went ahead and it just made it rendered the HTML so that you can see the output. So if you're just interacting with any website, then you can see if any HTML is returned, then basically Postman has this feature of preview too, so where it will just show you the HTML. So let's do one thing. Go to Google and just search for Postman. Just search Postman on Google, and this whole URL here, copy this URL back into Postman here. Just copy the URL and paste here. Just go to Google, search Postman, and then this URL here, copy this URL back into Postman. Now, if you can see, this is a very long URL, and if you want to try to understand what this URL is, then you would be you would just get confused that what all these things written here. But if you just post it in Postman, and you can see it is showing you the values. So this is actually a really nice handy feature. If you just want to decompose a whole big URL, you can just put the URL in Postman, and it will just show you. So here, this is Postman, the keyword we search for, then again Postman plus, and then this is some metadata that Google is appending. So the AQS, then the source ID, then the IE format, so yeah, all of these things. So whatever, now let's hit this API, this API call and see what, so we are getting the Google search page. So the same result that we got here, this is the same thing that we can see in Postman. So this is another handy feature of Postman too. And yeah. So here, this is the request method. So we understood the get request. We'll understand all of these request tools. And then here you can see this thing. So here, when you decompose the URL, we first added HTTPS. This is the protocol, the scheme of the request. So the website, the protocol on the internet, we either have HTTP or HTTPS. So that is the type of the protocol. Then Google is the host. So here google.com/search. So the same thing we encountered with this weather API 2, that this URL, this is the host, and then this is the path. So just like we saw earlier. So similarly with Google, here the google.com is the host, and then this /search is the path. And then specifying detail, we saw the parameters. So these parameters that are mentioned here, these are the parameters, query parameters. Then we have authorization and headers and body. So let's say here, where is the API? Okay, yeah. Here in the weather API, we are adding authorization. So here the authorization is being performed using this API. So let me just get a valid response here. And if I move to this authorization tab, so what happens basically is here the authorization is performed using this API key in the URL. If you see any other, like in the industry standard, the authorization is specified in the headers. If you just see this is the params here, you can see the params. Then you have this authorization tab here. So there are various types of authorizations. You can see inherit from parent and no authorization, API key, bearer token, so all of these authorization types are supported by APIs. If you're making an API or interacting with an API, then it will have one of these authorization styles. So if our duck API here doesn't have any authorization, but this weather API has authorization in the form of a key that is appended directly to the URL. But if you have any other sort of authorization, if you interact with any, then they most of the APIs have a bearer token. So you just put the token here and the Postman will take care of the rest. Similarly, headers. Okay, so this doesn't have headers. Oh. Okay, so we aren't adding any headers here. So these requests are the headers. So headers are basically metadata. So if you are sending a request, you are sending to the weather API. But if you want to specify any additional information about the type of response that you expect. Okay, yeah. So here are the response headers that we got. We aren't sending any headers with the request, but we are getting some headers in the response. So here, see the server. So this is the server that this weather map API is hosted on. We got the date here at the time this response was received, and then we got this content application slash JSON. So the response that we got here, this is a JSON response. So that the type of this response is actually specified in the headers here. Then we have the content length, keep alive, and all of these, and allow control allow methods. So this API will allow get request and post request. So we just made a get request to the API, and we'll get to the post request soon. And what other thing? Yeah, headers and body, and then the receiving response. So I told you that the status codes we got. So the 200 status code we got was for okay. So the request which we had made was a successful request. So we got this 200 status code. Then we also got a 401 status code. 401 was for unauthorized. Similarly, this 404 is a very common request and like error code. So let me just do here some random stuff. I'll just type anything here. Okay, just a second. I'll try with this thing. Okay, so here this 404. So what happened is I went to this API and I tried to go to this random path, but this path is not defined with the API. So it just gave me a 404. So if you just type any random URL, so let me just put this URL here in the browser tab and see we are getting this 404 response. So often on the internet when you're interacting with websites, you must have seen this 404. So this 404 is actually this error code so that the requested resource could not be found. So, and if you see the preview here, then you can see, the loaded web page right here in Postman. You don't need to go to some other tab or anything. Okay, and accessing body data, yeah, that's true. Okay, so request body, so optional but often supplied with post and put request. So I'll just walk. No, we will go to post request in a while. So these are the various types of data that an API can process. So if you move back to Postman and here, if you go to this body tab here, let me just open this request here and go to this body. So here, whatever requests are there, like they expect some body. So let's say you make a post to Instagram. So from your phone, you're actually sending a photo to Instagram. So whatever this you're making a post on Instagram. So you're posting the image to Instagram servers. So you're making this post request. So what this post request does is it sends some data from your device to the servers. So here, if I hit this API, then this API, what it is doing is it's an API provided by Postman, and it's adding a joke. So if you go to this gist here, go to this gist, and here there is this Postman jokes API. So what this API is doing is adding some jokes to an API endpoint. So let me just bring this tab here. So here I just added two jokes here. So what I'll do is I'll just add an actual joke. So here's something funny, and I'll just try to add this joke. Okay, so it is telling me that a joke with this ID already exists. So I'll just put any random number here and I try to add. So here I added this joke, and if I go to this, hmm, where did that tab go? Now, yeah, here. If I just refresh this thing, then I can see this joke that I added. So I can see my name here, and this something funny, and then I can visit the source. So make this API call from your Postman. So in this request body here, put your name, just type any random joke, and then give a unique idea. So be sure whatever ID you are giving here doesn't clash with anyone. So just put any random number here, and then hit this send here. So then you can make a request. You can add a joke basically. So once you have done this, give me a confirmation in the chat. Just type joke, and I'll know that you have posted some jokes. Okay, so let me just try refreshing here. Yeah, yes, someone send this joke. Okay. Okay, I'm waiting for more jokes to come in. So just go here. This body is provided here. Just double click this, and if you want to see, you might land here. So just click this body here, this body option, and then you can edit the response here. So just type your name, type a joke, give it a ID, and just hit this send, and then your joke will be sent, and then everyone can see your joke basically. Okay, so we only have one person who added a joke here. So yeah, that's fine. So this is a post request that we made. So this post request took some data. So what this data is, it took some ID, it took an author, and it took joke. So let me just do one thing. Let me just try to remove one parameter here. I'll just remove the joke, and then I'll hit the API. It will send that missing it was joke not send, and it doesn't have, I didn't send the joke parameter, so it returned me with this error response. And if you can see the status here, 400 bad request. The request cannot be fulfilled due to bad syntax. So since the syntax was bad, that I didn't send the whole expected parameters now, that's why it is a bad request. So when you do this, if you make any API call and you don't specify the correct parameters, then you'll get this bad request. Also, the joke exists. So yeah, just, never mind this thing. Mm, okay. Mm. So also the type of the body. So you can see these are the various types of bodies. So I can specify no body here, and without specifying any body, if I try to hit the API, then it will tell me that ID not sent. So it's expecting a joke ID from me. Similarly, form data. So if you have worked with HTML forms, then whatever the data is sent from the forms, you can mimic the data from Postman too. Also, this is just another variant of form data. And then raw data. So this raw data I'm typing here, and also this JSON here. The type of data I'm sending, I'm typing the raw data here, but this raw data should also have a type. Whether it is text, it is JavaScript code, JSON, HTML, XML. So these are the types. And if we, okay, this tool doesn't have any headers. Okay. And then there's also binary and GraphQL. So, when you make a request to, I can select a file from you. So basically, when you make any request with any media data type, like the Instagram's API, you're sending an image. So the image goes in binary data. So if you want to send send an image, make an Instagram post from here, you can do that too. So that's the binary data type. And GraphQL is just another type of data that is sent. Here it's the same thing. This this here is the JSON example of JSON data. So we send the JSON data. So we put the JSON data in this curly braces and name. We send three parameters: ID, author, and the job. So similarly, you can send any parameters, and these are the types of data. So yeah, this is the same link of the collection that we have in Postman. Yeah, and let's do a quick recap of what stuff we have learned. So we went to methods, addresses, parameters, authorization, and body data. So moving back to Postman here, this first is the method thing. So here we made a post request, then here we are making a get request. So we made post request to send the data, we made a post request to get the data. Also, there are various types of requests. These are put and patch requests are used to update some data. Then there is delete request, copy, and all of these various supported requests. We tried out two methods. Then we went over to this URL. Then we saw the URL paths here. Whatever path there is. Okay, so this AP/API/random image is a path where you'll find an image of a duck, and this is the host URL. Then we have parameters. So in this weather request, we saw the query parameters. So these are the query parameters we saw. So if I want to get the data of, let's say, Pune, then I can just change the query parameters here. I hit the API. I sent out a request to get the data of Pune city, and I got the data back in response. I got the weather results back as a response. So request, you ask for something, response, the server returns you something. And also here, this data is type JSON. So here we are seeing this JSON thing. Then authorization and body data. So if you're interacting with some APIs like authorization, here it is being performed using this API key, and some other API services need the authorization in headers or any of the types listed here. So that is authorization. And then yeah, body data. So body data, when we are making this request to this get weather API, we aren't sending any body. All of our these query parameters are added here straight in the URL, and then we get the data. But when we posted this joke, when we send this joke to the server, we actually send some data. So we sent this data in the body. So yeah, that's about the body. And yeah. And if we, this session was just a basic, interaction, like introduction. And if you want to, continue your learning more about APIs and more about Postman, then there is this Postman student expert certification you can do. So I'll just walk you through. So I currently am a Postman student expert. So I did this certification. So, sending more sophisticated requests in Postman, editing documentation for a collection, writing basic test script, running collections, passing data between requests, and scripting request execution order. Have the option to become student leader in your community. So all of these, these four features listed here, these are things you can do in Postman. So like we didn't explore here, but if you can see here, there is an option of test. So whatever response your APIs are returning, if you are making an API, you make an API call, or you just built an API from scratch for yourself, and then you need to test that API. So you can write the testing code here, and Postman will do the testing for you. You don't need to do the manual effort. You just send this, hit this send button, and it will send the request. It will get the response. It will perform test on the received data, and it will show you. Similarly, there is API documentation. So as a software engineers, documenting what we do is an important thing. So you can add this documentation here, and ultimately when you are ready to deploy or ship your project, you can just share this Postman collection and along with its documentation. You don't need to write any separate documentation. If you see people write documentation on GitHub or at places, so Postman also offers this functionality. So your company can just maintain the documentation in Postman. Also you must have noticed that I made this collection and I shared. So collaborative learning in your college projects, if you're making use of any API and you want to interact like do collaborative development of data, then you can just make one collection and then you can share it among your friends, and everyone can use the same environment. Because if I make some change, my groupmate makes some change, and we both don't know what we have done, then it would be a huge confusion. That's right. Yeah, also another, it also offers this security information about the API. So you can see the remote address, you can see the local address, and all of these things. So these are just Postman features. So if you are interested more about learning about Postman, then you can head over to this link. Let me just share the link. Okay, we'll share this link later on, or you can just go to this link now. Bit.ly Postman Student Program. So if you head over to this link, then you can learn more about the Student Expert Program and move ahead with the certification. And now here comes the part everyone most excited and waiting for. So you from this session you have an opportunity to win some swags. So there are two tasks you need to perform. So as our session has almost ended, so whatever your key learnings were, you have to share those on your social media. So you can make the post anywhere on social media, and be sure to tag me and GDSC-TCET, and we'll look over your post. And you have to share a sort of a summary, or like whatever you want to share, whatever your key takeaways are from the session. Just share those and use this hashtag Postman Student. And be creative, don't just write an essay there. Just be creative. You must have clicked some screenshots earlier. I told you to do so at the start of the session. So using those the session screenshot, make a creative post. And the team will float some URLs. We have made some Google Forms. So yeah, the forms, the link of the form is sent in the chat. So there is a Google form. You need to submit the form to win the prize. And also we have a blog writing competition. So you attended this session, you must have learned something. So whatever your learnings were, you have to write a blog, and then you have to publish the blog and submit the link to us. So you can submit, like, publish the blog anywhere. You can use Blogger, Medium, Dev2, anywhere you write the blog. And in the blog, mention these hashtag Postman Student and Postman API. And when your blog is ready, you can just submit the link. So till tomorrow night, 11:59. So today is 29th. So till 30 October, we are accepting responses. So the Google form will close tomorrow night at 12 a.m. So till then you have time. So just go to the Google form and add your social links and add your blog links and submit the form. And the form is also editable. So in case you make some changes later on in your tasks, so you can always go and edit the responses. So also, if you want to learn more, then here are some excellent resources curated by Postman. So the Postman Learning Center, Postman API Network, and then the Postman Community Forum. So Postman has really good resources. I have personally used this. And if you want to learn more about APIs in general, or the better use of Postman, or if you just want to be a part of the community, you can join the Discord server or head over to the community forum, and then you can just improve yourself. And then let's just move on to Q&A. So I hope you people have some questions for me. So I guess we can take your questions now. So yeah. Okay, so Anam, you might have the questions curated, or you can ask your questions directly in the chat. I'll just take a look at the chat and answer your questions. And meanwhile, also the link for feedbacks posted. So you need to compulsorily fill the feedback to be eligible for the swags giveaway. So fill the feedback and then submit the Google Forms, and then we'll just know. So if you just skip the feedback form, then all of these forms are going into one Google sheet. So I can see whether or not you have submitted the feedback. Just a genuine feedback. It won't take much of your time. So whatever your feedback was from the session, you can just share it to me. And yeah,
Wilfred, we have a question. Can we work in team workspace in Postman?
Yeah, absolutely. You can work in team workspace. So if you just go here, then there is an option of this workspaces here. So these are my workspaces. So I just created, if you just hit this create workspace, you can see this option here, team workspace, personal, private. So whatever your team is, if you just select a team workspace, then you can add your team here. So let me just try to make it a team workspace, create workspace and add a team. So when I hit the add team, I'll just get an option to, put the edit team profile. Okay. Mm, okay. So it's just giving me, you can just set up your team ahead on here. So to answer your question, yes. And okay, so why did I fork in the start? So basically, I made the collection for myself and I shared it to you. So if you want to make any changes in the collection, you need to store your own copy of the collection. So what happened there is, this was my central collection and I shared it to you. So you're using the collection, and if you make any changes, then those changes shouldn't be reflected in my collection. You can, just like a lot of changes I did here. Where did that go? So here, if you have noticed that I made some changes here, but I don't want whatever changes you make to be reflected in my original collection. So you should be able to store your own copy. So to make your own copy of your own collection, you fork the collection. So basically now, if I make any changes to my collection, they won't reflect in yours. And if you delete a request, then the request might be unimportant for you, but it might be important for me. So that's why. So just the intention of forking. And
Um,
how much time did it take for you to master Postman in APIs? To be honest, I still haven't mastered anything. I'm just learning, and a lot of features. Postman has a lot of features, and to be honest, I don't even know all of the features. But whatever are important for me, I know the features. So the best way you can learn is you have to try stuff yourself, and just figure out it for yourself. I hope I did answer your question. And how to make sure our API is safe from external attack. So API security is, just another, a whole different paradigm of concepts and stuff. So you need, when you make APIs, then you will, start understanding about API securities. So unless you are, actually you code APIs, you cannot understand, I guess, API security much. So here API security was implemented using this authorization here, this app ID. So this key is here there. So the open weather map knows who owner of these. So they know, so they can limit my request. So I'm using a free account. So let's say, suppose I'm limited to 100 requests per hour. If I exceed the amount of requests, then they won't process my request. They'll, deny my request. So that is one form of protecting, because if this API is open, I'll just write a script and I'll perform an attack, a denial of service attack, where I'll just, send 1,000 requests per second to the server. And those are ingenuine requests. I don't actually need the, request process. I'm just wasting time and just bringing their service down. So you see, this duck API doesn't have anything. So I can actually write a script to bombard this duck API, and anyone who is, genuinely using the API won't be able to use it. So that those are denial of service attacks. So I can do that with this duck API, but I cannot do that with this weather API. So they have, protected their API from abuse using this authentication. And yeah, any more doubts?
I believe we have no doubts for now. If anyone has any doubts after this, they can always reach out to us on our WhatsApp group, and like Achal posted on chat, you can also join Postman Discord to clear your doubts. And I believe they will be the perfect that will be the perfect platform to ask your doubts. And moving on, um, in the end, we Wilfred did declare that there will be two small tasks for you where you can post on social media and you can write a blog if you want. Whatever you do, you have to tag us, and whatever the details are, we will also share that in our WhatsApp group. And the deadline is by Sunday night, so which is tomorrow night. And we will be circulating a form where you have to fill the links of the post you made. So we can, review your post, and accordingly we will announce the winners who will get the swag by next week. And if you have any doubts, I said again, you can join the Discord group, and all the and please fill the feedback form right now, because it helps us to, to improve our sessions better and everything.
Yeah,
But
that's it, I guess.
we have last out asking, like, if we have a private account, will we be able to see the story? I believe, just can you clear this thing related to the swags?
Yeah, if you have a private account, then we won't be able to see your story.
But
Yeah,
you have to tag us, and I believe you don't have to post it on Instagram, only
yeah. If
Twitter.
you tag us, then maybe if I'm tagged, then I can see your post. So you can tag GDSC-TCET since the profile is public, so they might be able to see yours.
Or you can send us the screenshot of
Yeah,
your.
or we'll get the story. If you tag us, we'll get a notification in our DMs, so we can check out the story. If we are tagged there, then we can check it out in DMs. So yeah, that will work. So anywhere on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, I guess yeah, those are our active socials. So you can post there, and be sure to tag us. So yeah, I hope you are all are following GDSC TCT on the socials, and my socials are listed here. So you can tag me and GDSC TCT, and also if you tag us, then don't think that you don't need to submit. Tag us and then submit the form so that we can go over the evaluations. Also the stories disappear in 24 hours, so do like tag us, do the post, and then immediately submit so that we can just get with the evaluation done quickly. So you can submit the form once with your social links, and then again after you're done with the block tomorrow, then you can edit your response. So in that way we can check everything.
Okay, then in the end, I would like to take a screenshot of the session. So if everyone is just, if you all can turn on your cameras, and we can take a screenshot of the session.
Yeah, just the attendees.
We'll wait for a few more cameras to be turned on, and we'll take a screenshot.
Yeah, if you can just turn on just for a quick picture.
Okay, I believe I've taken the screenshot. Thank you everyone for turning on your camera. And we will end the session soon. We are really sorry that the session got extended a little bit over the time. And all the links will be shared in the WhatsApp group itself.
Yeah.